Cool. So I'm Lisa, as you've heard. I've been with the charity since the beginning, and we're 6 years old actually this month. We've been registered as a charity. I do this in my spare time. I'm a Macmillan nurse locally as a full-time job, and very passionate about what we do. And it's just so amazing to see so many of you here. It's really great. So some of you will recognize yourselves in there. And at the top you can see we have Carol James. I don't know if anyone knows Beeks. But here she is. And Beeks has probably sold more hoodies than I've had hot breakfasts. And she's also been around for about 6 years and very passionate enrollment machine. And Beeks is a teacher by trade and just a wonderful human being. We have Marion, who I think is over with the big heart. Some of you would have met her. She's doing the photographs. Marion's also, she's a founder member as well, and she is our RT person. So the three of us have no RT anything compared to Marion. She is the look. She's done this presentation. She's just absolutely brilliant with a computer, and we love her to bits. And then Bev, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, so I'm Bev, and I've been with Love Is All We Need from the very, very early days. During the day I'm a hairdresser, and during the rest of the time I volunteer for Love Is All We Need. I'm a trustee for Love Is All We Need. I also come from Pietermaritzburg, which is the area that we work into in South Africa, and I'm completely passionate about the area. I'm completely passionate about the people I work with and volunteer with on Love Is All We Need. Yeah, that's me.
Okay.
Yeah.
And just to say that this is the first time that there's been so many people who support us as volunteers. It's just so amazing. There's so many people here that are currently working alongside us and contributing. I'd love to thank all of you, and I am going to say that I did speak to Gail from South Africa last night, and she wanted me to send love to you all. She said that they so value what we do for them over there. And it's a mammoth task, as you know, so that's just really great. Thank you. And thank you, all of you, for everything that you do for Love Is All We Need. There's some of you that have been with us for 6 years, and it's just amazing, really. Thank you.
Great. So I am going to introduce you and share with you the people that make it work out in South Africa. Okay, so these are people we've worked with for 7 years now, and I'll just give you a brief sort of thing of who they all are. So that lady over there with the young baby is Gail Trollope. Gail Trollope is an HIV specialist. She's a midwifery lecturer. She trained Lisa in midwifery many years ago. She's the mama at the home. She's the person who she fosters a lot of the children. Gail is passionate about what she does. She retired from her regular day job and then took on this, which is like a mammoth task. Gail speaks Zulu fluently. She knows the people intimately of the area. She knows the area intimately. And possibly one of the most important things about Gail is that she has a very, very close connection with the chief of the area. Without a connection like that in South Africa, it would be really difficult to produce a lot of the work that she gets done in that area. So that's Gail up there with one of the little babas. I'll come down to here because this is Hugh. Hugh is Gail's husband. He's very involved in agriculture and agricultural training, is what he did before he retired. He's now retired. He's in a wheelchair full-time, and he's the papa of these kids at the Hope Centre. He works hand in hand with the team. He trains and educates people about sustainable farming and how to grow their own food, etc., etc. Integral part, and the kids absolutely adore him. I'll come down here now to Isabel, this lady in the corner here. Isabel has lived and worked and volunteered at the Hope Centre since it started out about 12 years ago. She's one of Gail's right-hand ladies. Little Esther that she's holding there is her own child who she fostered. So Esther lives with her. Izzy is just whenever Gail's not there, Izzy's the one. And she's just phenomenal. She gives and gives and gives. And whenever you see Izzy, she's got a smile. Everything's fabulous and everything's easy in her world. Coming up here, this picture was taken outside the community centre that you'll hear more about later. This is Zanele and her husband, Mr. Mopamole. And we call him that. He has a first name, but we fondly like to call him Mr. Mopamole. Zanele works out in the rural area. She's a Zulu lady. She knows when you drive through the Sweetwaters area with Zanele, she will stop the car and shout at a child in Zulu, and she's sort of like, well, why aren't you at school? She knows all the routines of the children. She knows all the children. She's fantastic. She minces around the bush in little high heel shoes like this. And when I asked her once, I said, why, do you not want some trainers? She says, why? And she carries on. She's a resilient, strong, amazing, and inspiring woman. And her husband, Mr. Mupamule, is a builder by trade, and he does a lot of the building on site and a lot of building we do. So it's very much community-based, and it's about giving to the community all the time, using local people, etc. This chap down here is called Eric, and some of his class. Eric came to the Hope Centre as a volunteer. He was the first man to live at the Hope Centre, and he took on the role of young dad. He would do rough and tumble with the boys and play with them and build fires and make barbecues and stuff like that. And he just became such an integral part of the team. He's now started studying as a teacher. He's just qualified as a teacher. He's now moved out of the Hope Centre and built a house for himself in Sweetwaters, and he comes in every day and teaches at the Hope Centre. So that's the very basic team of people out there who volunteer and are incredible at the work they do. I mean, they swim against the stream a lot of the time, and it's really hardcore work out there, and they are just phenomenal. Light-hearted, passionate, and inspiring and amazing people. So the team in South Africa.
Yep.
Thanks, Claire.
So just to say that we're going to give the rest of the presentation will just be an overview of what we're all involved in. And some of you have been coming to these events, so there's a bit of an update as well. So the Hope Centre is, that's Esther in school. Currently, the Hope Centre exists in an old bus depot where it's been for about 11 years, and it was refurbished to be able to house all of these kids. And currently the oldest child there is a Tembe, and he's 10, and the youngest child is a week old, and that's a child that's just come in. And there are 38 children at the moment in the centre. That fluctuates, and but there's 4 children that are going to be there during this month as they're born, and their mothers are about 13 years old, and their babies are as a result of rape. So Gail is looking after them, and then those babies, when they're born, they will come in. They don't normally take newborns, but these are going to be very vulnerable babies otherwise if they stay out there. Most of the children at the Hope Centre, if they weren't at the Hope Centre, they would not have survived, and they all come from quite shocking circumstances. The centre has a fully functioning, very robust school. In fact, we've had people go out who know about teaching, who've been very, very impressed with the standard of education. Everybody goes to school, whether you're 2 or whatever age you are, you go to school there. They have preschool, and so Gail and the team are very hot on education. This is a very important thing, as you can imagine, to get ahead. And there are local folk, as Bev mentioned, that are studying to be teachers and are actually at the school. The intention really is to raise these children as normally as possible. They're very loved. I mean, the environment is so loving. We go every year. It's really caring, spotlessly clean. You could eat off the floor. And the children are learnt, they're taught how, they're disciplined, and they're taught how to, taught the life skills that they need to know. And they're seen regularly by a paediatrician who comes in and volunteers. She comes in and checks the kids. A lot of them are on HIV drugs. A lot of them are HIV positive, but they're doing really well with the environment that they have. So that's really encouraging. And then they go on outings. The children go on outings. There's some really good little gymnasts. There's ballet, contemporary dancing, and we have our oldest boys there are in scouts. So a very sort of, as much as possible, quite a holistic sort of whole lifestyle there.
Okay, so I'll tell you a little bit about this, the child-led household. So the rural area, there's the Hope Centre in Pietermaritzburg, and then the rural area of Sweetwaters, which looks a little bit like this. It's very, very beautiful. It's in KwaZulu-Natal, just an hour inland from Durban on the south coast. Very rural, and lots of rural settlements. In this area, I guess it's about the size of maybe Brighton and Hove in area. It's broken up. Sweetwaters is broken up into 9 areas, and the Hope Centre and Love Is All We Need support 4 of those areas. The other areas are supported by other non-government organisations, but we work into 4 of them. In the whole of Sweetwaters, there's roughly about 6,000 children, and out of the homes we go into, there's about 600 child-headed households. Now, a child-headed household is a home where all the adults have died, so these children might have lost their parents, their aunts and uncles, maybe friends that have then come to look after them. Some of these children have lost 3 sets of adults in their life, and a lot of the kids, the eldest is maybe only 8 years old, and she or he is running the household and looking after the younger siblings. They're vulnerable children because they're in the houses by themselves most of the day, and if they're not at school, and in the evening, so they're very vulnerable. There's abuse that happens, there's rape that happens, and they're vulnerable children. They stay in their households because there's no sort of social welfare structure as such in this area, and if we took them out of their households, they then wouldn't have homes to go back to at some stage. So it's kind of the best idea to keep them in their households, and then we have a mobile mother scheme that go and look after them and support them in the household. The system works really, really well. And visiting some of these kids' households, it's just incredible. The pride, the feeling of pride that they have. So the houses may be 2 rooms, and maybe 1-2 rooms, mud floor, maybe a corrugated iron roof, maybe thatch roof. You go into these houses, I've been into a number of them, and the children will stand up and welcome you with respect, just as soon as you walk into their home. It's incredible. Some of the mud floors almost shine, because they've been beaten down and so well looked after. This is a photograph we took in one of the kitchens. There were only 2 utensils in the kitchen, the kettle on the stove and that pot. And I mean, look at the shine on the pot. They have nothing. They take such incredible pride with themselves and their environment. This is a very common scene when you drive through Sweetwaters. Graves are all over the show. It's horrific, and it really gets you when you first visit. Very often one homestead will have 6 or 7 graves in the front garden, and all the family, the family are there. But the child-headed households kind of work really, really well. And, looking from outside where we stand in England, it's quite a horrific thought to think that children are living out in the dark with no electricity, sometimes by themselves. So these are the children we support, and that's why the people at the Hope Centre are so phenomenally important to these children, because Zanele and Gail know all these children, they know what they're up to, and they know how to support them. So it's a fantastic system. Okay, so out in the Sweetwaters community again, there's the community home. So here's a picture of Zanele, there's the local vehicle we have, and the community home is actually now 2 homes and the community centre, all in one area. So it started out, this was the original community home, which was Zanele and Mr. Mopamole's house, and they lived there with their own children, and then started to collect children as they came in and lived with them as well. At one stage there were, how many people living there?
17.
Like 17 children living in 3 rooms, okay, in that house. Then that house started, as you can see, started to fall down. So imagine a sort of big quadrangle on this side of that mound. There was another house built, a really nice help. There's the foundations of it over there. And Zanele, her husband, her kids, and the extra kids all moved into the really nice house on this side. And that house has now been broken down and rebuilt as well. So we now have 2 community houses, and the community centre, which Lisa will tell you about, is on the same property. When we first got involved, the community house was literally that house. No gates, no nothing. There's now a 6-foot perimeter fence with barbed wire topping. It's secure. When the kids are in there, they're safe, and they're really, really well looked after. At the moment, the community house has got how many? 36.
Yep.
36 living there. And they're getting to teenage sort of age now. So now there's kind of issues. When they were little, it was kind of okay. Now we've got teenage boys and girls. So what Gail has done, there's a boys' room and a girls' room. And the girls' room has an ensuite bathroom, and the boys' room has an ensuite bathroom. And then there's like security guarding down the middle. Okay? So there's kind of no movement, because it's a whole different ball game to organise this whole thing now. So, and they've also moved into those bedrooms, they've moved in bunk beds so that we can get the maximum amount of kids in each room. Eventually some of those kids will move to the community centre, which is on site as well, which Lisa will tell you about. Thanks, Clay.
The community centre, this is our pride and joy, I think. This is a lot of the money that we've raised has been invested in the community centre. It took some time to build, lack of resources, torrential rain, lots of delays, but it is now almost complete. It's 95% complete, and the 5% really is things like tiling and childproofing. It's built around a quadrant, so there's an open quadrant in the middle, and then off that is doors to various rooms. There's a big rooms for training and school, and then there's the kitchen. There's all sorts of different rooms off there. Bathroom, there's going to be a clinic room. There's lots of plans for the community centre, but actually it's fully functioning. It has 6 big water tanks called JoJo's, we don't know why. And that captures rainwater so that the local people do have some drinking water as well. At the moment, there's quite a lot of programs there. There's the training of caregivers. There's a program actually initiated by the government at the moment where they're actually paying a period of time, they're paying caregivers. So they have 100 caregivers now in the community in the Hope Centre, which is fantastic. It means there's a lot of higher input at the moment for the kids. There's also school holiday clubs, because school for a child there it means a meal a day. It means safety from being abused at home, and obviously the thing of education. But when schools close for the holidays, the kids don't have that meal that they get at school, and of course they're vulnerable. So the centre's open, and they have hundreds of kids that come through to just to be fed, and they do various activities, and they're just safe. There's also respite children. These are them here. When I was there in May, I spent quite a bit of time at the centre and actually saw all of this happening with these kids. And at the moment there's about 35 that go through a week, and they're children who they are at school, but they're on HIV drugs, a lot of them, and then they get sick from their drugs, and then they stay at home. But if they stay at home, they risk being abused, and a lot of them are. So it was just unbearable for the workers there. So what they did is Gail said they still had to put their uniforms on, and then they could come to the centre. And when I was there, it was really funny in May, because they line up and they get all these, they get multivitamin syrup and they get cough syrup. And they actually, when they see the bottles coming out, the kids start coughing. It was really hilarious. They all start coughing. It was crescendo of coughing because they want the medicine. Really cute. And it's just amazing, because they come in, and then their siblings who are at school, the older siblings, will fetch them on their way home. They get fed, they take food home, and it's just a much better option than the one that they have. There's also food parcels are packed. It's a huge task. They're packed, and they're distributed from the centre, and everything is very organised, isn't it? Yeah. They have a card system in the 4 areas that Bev mentioned. There's a card colour for each area, and every week one area comes in and gets their food parcels. It works well, and they're giving. It's at the moment, I think there's 4 to 5 tons of food that are going out a month. It's quite a huge amount of food. That's dry food. There's also fresh food. And the other thing that they've done recently in July and September. In July they had a fantastic, really inspired by this. They had 50 girls do a life skills training. It was for a week. It was during school holidays, and they got people from different organisations to talk to them about how to cope with life, their lives, and also about HIV education. Phenomenal result. It was really effective. They felt that the kids had really benefited. They were teenage girls. And then in September they had 68 teenage guys, which is huge. I mean, that's amazing. Local guys who came, same thing, but tailored for the boys. And Gail feels very sure that because of that, the amount of babies being discarded has been there's been nothing since then. Usually they're finding babies on the side of the road. They've got a Moses room in the community centre where women can abandon their babies safely. But actually they now, like these 4 babies that are waiting to be born, they've actually come to Gail and said, rather than abandoning them. So this is very encouraging, really, really encouraging. So we're very happy about that. And that's all really for the centre.
Yeah. So this is Enys House. This is Annie, who's since passed on. This is Enys' home. This is the lounge area of her home, and this is the outside of her home. Everybody that's involved with the Hope Centre in Sweetwaters knows Enys House as Enys House. It's just Enys House. So Annie nursed 2 adult friends of hers who died from AIDS. Then she herself became unwell and died of AIDS, and there's since been 2 other adults that have come into the home, all with kids, mind you. So they all bring kids along. So we got more and more and more and more children, and these adults come in and they get nursed and looked after, and then they die. And there's a granny, this is the granny, and we call them Gogo, is the Zulu name and respectful name for a granny. And Granny has been there the whole way through this. So now Granny nurtures all these people, okay, and then the adults die. But there's kids and kids and kids and more kids, okay? So every time Gail, this is Gail and Zanele visiting, and every time they go there, there's more kids, and now there's more people to look after and more children. So Gail's now taking control of the situation. Enys House still exists. Gogo has been asked, because last time Gail went out there, there were now 2 new twin girls so that have come from somewhere else. So Gogo was asked, please, to take the twin girls back to the mother from somewhere else. And all the children that are living there now are now being looked after as a child-headed household. So kind of Gail's put the lid on what potentially could have happened here, because it was kind of getting a bit out of control. And we've now put the lid on it. Gail will, and the team will still go out there and visit and nurture and look after. It's become one of the child-headed households. But I'm sure Gogo will come back at some stage and just without the children. But this for me was the first time I was faced with full-blown AIDS, and it's one of the turning points for me that it kind of rocked my socks in terms of the reality of the situation out there and in terms of what the community does. The community pulls together, no question. It's like somebody's needed, somebody has a need, and the community pulls together, and these are people that pull together and they have nothing. And there's such a sense of community there, it's phenomenal. So this is always a very poignant house in the community, Enys House, because it really stands for what that community is about. Thanks, Claire.
And this is what inspires us to do what we do as well. This is Sammy. Sammy was born to a mom with HIV who died a year after Sammy was born. And by 18 months old, by the time she went to the centre, she was 9 pounds. She didn't look like she'd make it, but they used, with a lot of love, care and a medicine dropper, they fed her, and took about 10 days for her to turn around, but she did, and this is Sammy. There's no lasting effects that anyone can tell. She goes to school. She's a delightful child, and just a real example of what's possible.
Mm. Another success story is Seth. This is little Seth now, today. This is when he arrived at the Hope Centre. Seth and his brother were living out in the Sweetwaters community, and their mum had full-blown AIDS, and very often it affects the mind. And this is a great example of how that community works. So the neighbour heard the kids screaming in the front garden. Okay, this is a really rural community. The neighbour heard it. She knew something was not okay. She went next door, realised that mom had completely lost the plot and was trying to bury the children alive. Okay, she immediately phoned one of the caregivers, who phoned Zanele, and in the next couple of hours, the Hope Centre were out there, got the children who were literally being buried, got the children, took the mother, cared for the mother. The mum then passed on. The children, Seth and his brother, are now in the Hope Centre, at school, living a great life and living with a sense of community and with a sense of family. And it's just such a great example of exactly how that community works and how fast acting it is. There's a need, it's addressed. There's a need, it's addressed. And little Seth, as you can imagine, like this, I mean, there's no way he and his brother would have made it. So, you know, there's stories like this in the Hope Centre all the time, and it's exactly why the Hope Centre exists and why it's so important, because you know, this is reality. It's just divine, and look how divine Seth is now. I mean, you could just eat him. He's so cute. So yeah. And
these are our boys. So these are the 4 oldest boys. This is them here when we got involved with. So they're small, as you can see, and look at them now. Aren't they wonderful? Very proud of these boys. They're just beautiful. So just to show you that, this is our most recent picture of them. So this is about really to let you know what's so, and that is that currently we have 45 people giving regularly every month. A lot of you are here. Thank you. And we also have 1 corporate giver. And per annum, that's about 12,000 pounds per annum. And obviously, you know, with the exchange rate, that can make a real difference. The main needs at the moment for the hopes right now, Gail, after speaking to her last night, school uniforms are a big need. They always are, because the kids outgrow them and they lose them and whatever they do with them. And shoes, obviously, shoes are expensive over there. So it's things like educate, the school uniforms are important. They're feeding 220 babies, 200 plus babies with their moms or their grannies or their aunts, and those babies are being fed with milk powders. And there's also a huge need around building still. So there's always going to be building works. I mean, there's always going to be refurbishment and things being built and added on. And so that's what we're up to, and that's the current needs at the moment. Just in terms of regular giving being something that's sustainable, whether we're sustaining the 70 odd kids between the Hope Centre and the house, and those children are all being clothed, they're being fed, they're being educated. So it's a huge, it's a huge need. Thank you.